Welcome back, everybody, to CE 26. So today we are going to be talking about be talking about R programming, kind of how do you manipulate data in R. And yesterday's class, or Tuesday's class, really, on Tuesday's class, what we did was we got started with R. We installed R on our machine. We installed R Studio. And now if you have R and R Studio on my machine, just to kind of give you a big picture idea, which I mentioned in most groups the other day as well, but R Studio is where you actually do the programming, right? So this is the development environment where you work with it, and you never have to kind of worry about what's happening with base R. You never sort of click through on it or anything like that. You just kind of work with R Studio. And in R, it's an open source programming language. What that means is that anybody who has experience with R, they can create their own packages. They can create their own, their own sort of modules and functions and programs, and then anybody could just download them and use them. Right? So that gives us tremendous amount of flexibility. But it also does is that it creates like 50 different ways of doing the same thing, which is great in some ways, but it could be somewhat challenging for newcomers, because I've told you guys that it's a good way to sort of do anything in R is just do a Google search on it. But when you do Google search on it, they might show you a completely different way than what you've learned. So the best way to sort of re-up your programming skills and so forth is really to practice with it, as try to get as much practice with it as you can. And my goal for this class, obviously, this is a traffic safety class, but in traffic safety and transportation in general, a good part of what you're going to be doing as a professional will be telling a story, right? So like as engineers, we just can't tell stories. Maybe some of you are good at it, but most of us are probably not good at telling stories by itself. So what we do is we tell stories with data. We kind of take the data that's being collected and convert them into narratives, into figures, and that can sort of give us insight into what's actually happening. Very important for crash data, but important for other type of transportation data as well. So as I said, this is my goal, is to kind of give you some practice into how do we take the data that is basically spreadsheets and spreadsheets of numbers and tell them or convert them into coherent stories that you can tell your supervisor, that you can tell to elected officials, you can tell to other people. And obviously there are some sort of best practices around that we're going to learn. So with all of that context, and that's why sort of learning that programming language is so important with practice. Now, so today's session will be devoted to sort of wrapping up our exercises, sort of like those 25 days in R exercises that we've been working through. I believe we've done up to day 7. So all of you are sort of familiar with functions, familiar with how to seek some help if you need to. But remember, all of that you're doing is in base R, right? So you're still using base R as your package. And there are sort of other packages that are out there. There's this whole package that it's called Tidyverse. Tidyverse is kind of another R package that works basically the programming language. It's within that R programming language framework, and that has much more flexibility. It can produce much more nicer looking graphs and so forth. But we'll come to that when we get there. But for now, we'll just sort of continue building our art portfolio and wrapping up those 25 exercises. Now, today we have a guest host of Miss Amanda Tran, and she is a student at Cal Poly. She is a senior undergraduate student, but she has the data science background, and she has taken some classes in R. She has helped me quite a bit with my research as well. And I don't believe I have any. I had invited 3 of my students if they could make it. It doesn't look like I have anybody else who could make it. Yeah, no, I don't see. Anybody else who could make it, but that's fine. We have Amanda, and Amanda I've designated her to be the co-host as well. So if you run into something in today's exercise, she will be available to help, but only up until 9:30 because she has another class to take at 9:30. So she was going to be around as well, and I'm going to be jumping from room to room as well. And today I wouldn't worry so much about Mac and PC because that designation was more important when we were doing the installation and stuff like that. But I think now that we are sort of past that point, I will just sort of randomly assign folks to different rooms, and then we'll sort of go over the remaining exercises within that. So our goal today will be to wrap that up. Now, before we jump into all of that, what I want to do is I want to share my screen and show you some changes that I've made into our programming portal. So what I'll do is I will share my screen now, and I will share our class Canvas portal. Everybody should be able to see that. And what I've done is, let me just make sure I change that to the student view so you know exactly what you're seeing as well. So I'm going to change it over to the student view. And so what I've done is I've changed that TRBV content that was sort of like an old name that I had. So I've changed that to the R programming resources. So anything interesting that I find that relates with R and R programming, I'm just going to put that here now. And one interesting thing that I just recently learned about was the portal to visualize data. So this is a website. If you click on it, if you click on the link in a new window. So this is a good, and again, we don't have to worry about it today. But what I'm telling you right now, right here, is that this is a portal which talks about, and this is going to be very important for your next lab exercise that we're going to begin next Thursday. But this is a portal that talks about how do you convert data into visualizations, right? So it has some nice flow charts as to what type of data you have. Let's say you have one numerical variable. How do you represent that data? You can represent that data using a histogram or a density plot, and you could, how do you write that, and it provides some template as to how to describe that data, right? So and then you might have some other types of data. You might have some categorical data, like different variable levels. And then how do you, if you have ordered data, so two numerical variables that are ordered or that are not ordered, and then if you have few points or many points, and then what kind of graphs that you can use to represent that data. And again, convert those spreadsheets into nice looking figures that actually convey something meaningful to the data users, right? So that's this is a nice one. And you can do density plots, you can use scatter plots, you can do a lot of different things. And the best part is that if you have two numerical variables, you're doing histograms, and let's say you wanna do, the best part is that if you want to generate any kind of plot that you see on this website, it links to a helpful R code in there, right? So let's say if you want to create a histogram, multi-histogram of two variables, if you click on it, it kind of gives you that code. So you could see that code right here. Obviously, it uses some other data set, but all you need to do is just make sure that you know how to sort of point R to your data frame. And once you do that, you can be ready to go and you can create data sets and histograms, right? So if you think that the most appropriate data type or histogram type for your variables would be these two histograms or this multi-histogram, you can find the code for that right here. So you just copy paste this code, change a few things so that you're pointing to your data frame, and then go from there. And again, you don't have to worry about it as you're completing those 25-day exercises, but this could be a very valuable resource as you move on to your next exercise that I'm going to assign next Thursday. So this is going to be sort of our first lab. So this is what you're working through, is you can consider that sort of lab 0, but then in your first lab, when I'm going to ask you to work with real data, this is where some of these things could come in handy. So I want to make sure that I share those resources with you. And with that, what I'm going to do is any questions about it so far? So we can go back to the class page. And my class page is here. To go to my class homepage as student view. So you can see what we've covered so far. And what I will also do next, by the time we end the class today, is that I will also have the notes posted for what we're going to cover in the lecture portion next week as well. I'll not make the lab available just yet. That will be coming in on Thursday. You'll have some time to work on it. But for now, just we'll work on the 25 exercises, try to wrap them up, and that'll be our goal. Like by 11 o'clock today, let's wrap up all 25 of these exercises. If you have any questions, again, I'll assign you to different rooms and so forth. And if you have any questions, let me know. Ping for help. And Amanda is here as well, so you could also ping Amanda for help too. So let me see if I can go back to the call here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And are there any questions about what we are doing today and how that all sort of works together? Again, you can ask the question via chat window or via audio if you're so inclined. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create breakout rooms. And then you can ping me or Amanda for help if you're having some trouble. And remember, Amanda is only going to be here up until 9:30. So you have very strong incentive to sort of get everything done by 9:30 because she's the expert and she can do things much better, much faster than I can in R. Because as I told you last time, I'm a new user as well. Maybe I shouldn't be recording this. But in any event, so try to see if you can make some progress by 9:30. And I'm assigning automatically the 8 breakout rooms. So you will be assigned to different breakout rooms, and just be prepared with sort of that Advent R calendar folder, and then start to work out these exercises. If you run into anything, just call for help. Okay. All right. So I'm about to hit stop recording, and I'm about to sort of assign you to breakout room, unless there are some last minute questions here. Okay, so you should see an invitation to join the breakout room. So please go ahead and do that. And Amanda, you could still be in the main room. That's fine. You don't need to necessarily.
Okay, sounds good.
And so I'm going to go ahead and stop recording for now.